Hi, everyone. I'm here with fellow author Dale Roberts to chat about all things writing nonfiction and maybe also publishing and marketing if we have time. So thank you for being here, Dale. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Bethany. You are a legend, and I already told you I fanboyed out for you already. So
Thank
now
you.
we're into a good conversation.
Yes, it's been fun. So I'm super excited because Dale has this amazing YouTube channel that's super helpful for authors, by the way, with over 80,000 subscribers. You guys should check it out. I will link it below. And I think I was saying in one of your videos that you've written over 50 nonfiction books, which is amazing. I'm super impressed. And so I'm excited to chat about your author journey, how you got started, where you are now. And then also, I thought we could dig into the topic of writing nonfiction and some questions that I got from writers on Instagram about that topic. So, first things first, when did you start writing and what made you decide to specifically write nonfiction?
Oh man, I wanted to be a writer as a kid, and college kind of sidetracked me because I went
Yeah.
to college and I became very discouraged. I was told over the years, "You're a great writer. You're a great writer," and then I went to college and they're like, "You're horrible at this."
I
I
had the
think I was
same
getting like
experience. What
yeah,
the
it was
heck?
like C minus was like my best effort.
Oh my
And it,
gosh.
it was it was crushing for me.
Yeah.
And life got in the way. And it wasn't until about 2013 I was working a job as an activities director, which it was at a assisted living community where I was pretty much paid to play with senior citizens. I did it for 20 years. It was an amazing job. I
Wow.
love that job. I love working with senior citizens. And any rate, I had a corporate wellness coach. She found I'm a big fan of health and fitness. I like to stay in shape. I like to eat right. I take it very, very seriously. And she found I was a tough nut to crack. She was like, "Man, I've challenged you in every way possible." She's like, "You should write a book about fitness. You'd like
Love
it so
that.
much." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? Little inner Dale, the little Dale from years ago was like, we should write a book."
Yeah.
And I stuck to it. I got up 4 a.m., a couple of hours before my wife would get up every day, and I would write for 2 hours straight. And I just kept hammering it out until I had about roughly, I don't know, 45 to 50,000 words of just hammered garbage. And at that point, I self edited, which probably is not the best idea. And so I ended up self publishing it through a place called Create Space. Remember Create Space?
Yes, I do. That's wild.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah.
The reason why I went there was because I went to an offset printer that was not too far from us. And I didn't realize that this whole self publishing thing was going on. I didn't know
Mhm.
about Kindle Direct Publishing, none of that stuff. In
Yeah.
fact, if you told me ebooks were going to be as big as they were, like back then, it was pretty big then. I was just like, who reads ebooks?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I went to that local printer and he gave me a quote of $1,200 to do a print run.
Wow.
And I come back to my wife all excited, like she's going to like approve of that. Oh,
Oh
that was
no.
a hard no. That was a no. And I was crushed, but I also understood because it
Yeah.
wasn't like $1,200 was coming out of my job because my job was paying me well, but not that well.
Yeah, and that's a big
So
sum.
yeah. So at any rate, yeah, that's where I stumbled on Create Space. I made my first paycheck was $21 and some odd cents.
Wow.
And the rest is history. It sucked for the first 2 years, I'll say that, but that's really what got me started writing. So I have to thank
Wow.
my corporate wellness coach from back then.
Yeah.
She was honestly the spark that lit this fire.
That's so cool. And it's funny that you say 2 years because I had almost the same experience. And they say that for any business, when you're an entrepreneur in general, 2 years is about what it takes to get off the ground. So that makes a lot of sense. And now I know that you actually write other nonfiction topics as well. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
what are all the different nonfiction topics you've kind of covered so far? And what's your favorite type to write?
Well, primarily, most of those publications have been fitness, something that's health and fitness, nutrition
That's
related,
awesome.
mindset related.
Yeah.
A lot of the titles I ended up delisting because I just didn't feel like it accurately portrayed the brand that I wanted to have. For
Gotcha.
instance, I had some vegetarian brand cookbooks and I ended up switching to full vegan. And I was like, I don't want people to pick up these recipes because this is not something I practice anymore. So I ended up
Gotcha.
delisting some of those things. But I ended up pivoting over into talking about self publishing because in April 2016 was when I started my channel for self publishing with Dale. A lot of people kept looking for my books. And it always confused them because they were like, you've got fitness books. What the heck are we
Yeah,
supposed to do with this? We want to learn about self-publishing. Well, it
that's a
took me
good
about
problem to have.
right. And
Yeah.
so it took about 4 years for me to finally just put pen to paper, sit down, commit to it. And believe it or not, actually, I wrote the first 3 books in the Amazon Self-Publisher series that is currently launched. I did it live on my channel in front
Wow.
of hundreds, if not thousands, of replay viewers,
My gosh.
where everybody got to see me keystroke for keystroke writing it down. If you ever want to have a case for copyright,
Wow.
just go ahead and live stream the bit. And good luck to anybody who wants to sit here and try to type whatever I'm typing and keep up with me. But yeah, I ended up doing that, and that's really what took off. And I have roughly about, let me think here, about 5 or 6 publications regarding self-publishing. This year, right now, I've got 6 works in progress. Half of them
Wow.
are pretty much almost all the way through. I've already gone through the beta reading phase.
Wow. Can I ask
And
what they're
now
about? Now I'm super curious.
it will be entirely about self-publishing. In
Okay.
fact, the 6 books are going to be one's for beginners, one's for advanced authors, another one's about publishing wide. I've got another one about how to write a nonfiction book in 48 hours. I've
Wow.
got, let me think here. I'm losing track. The bestseller book launch is another book, and I've got a 6th one. It's hard to
That's
keep
a good
track of all
problem to
these.
have. Yeah, I have that
Right.
problem too sometimes. Yeah, all the ideas. That's a
Yeah.
very good problem to have. I'm so curious about that 48-hour book one now, because my next question was, what does it look like to write a book from start to finish for you? And now I'm like, 48 hours? What?
I won't be able to give the blueprint on the whole 48 hours
Yeah.
deal, but I can give you a good broad stroke overview of what my
Yeah.
process is like. And usually it comes down to understanding what is the pain point of my reader.
Ooh, I love
And
that.
I mean, there was a good reason why the first 3 books I put out was about keywords, promotion, and reviews.
Okay.
Because I went into my Facebook group community and I put out a poll and I asked people, hey, what are your biggest problems in self-publishing? And every single person was saying keywords, reviews, promotion. And it was just overwhelming. And I was like, boom, there's going to be my topics.
Love that.
So having run this channel since April 2016, it's crazy to think it's been that long. I'm able to curate and kind of crowdsource what I need to write next because I have the understanding of a lot of these avenues and I also have the resources. So if I don't know the answer, I can be able to get the answer from somebody else that does know that. And I could be
Yeah.
able to infuse that into my books. So I look at what's the pain point and how can I address it? And then I
That's
sit
good.
down for about an hour and I just brain dump everything
Love
that I
that.
can that I think about in the topic. I don't try to think about any logical order. I just think about, okay, here's this, here's this, here's this, and I just rapid fire it. And then I take and I organize those and I think about, okay, what needs to go in the proper order? First of all, that could hook my reader, keep the reader engaged and interested so that way they're going from introduction all the way to conclusion and hitting that review because it's
Ooh, love
important to
that.
me not that someone just buys my book. I want them to consume it from beginning to end. I want it worth their time and I want it worth their money. This is something I see a lot from some of my reviews is some people are like, this is short but sweet. They're like, he gets right to the point. Because
Love
the
it.
thing is if people want fluff, there's tons of those books out there put out by TradPub because they're required to do 50,000 to 80,000 words inside their thing. Why waste people's time?
Yeah.
Just give them
Yeah.
exactly what they want, get right
Oh
to
my
the point
gosh.
so that way they can enjoy the rest of their life. Because that's the thing. You and I, Bethany, we're resources.
Yeah.
People don't want to sit here and try to hear us blabber on about this, that, and the other. They
Yeah.
want the content. So that way they
Like
can
right
get
away.
on with their
Yeah.
lives and they can really start to implement that thing. And that's the most important
Yeah.
thing. I don't want readers reading books all the time. I want the readers to take action because then by them taking action, they'll get some success. And that success, of course, is going to bleed off over to me because someone's going to go, hey, you just launched a book, it became a bestseller. You sold over 3,000 copies. How did you do it? Someone's going to go, I read one of Dale's books, or I saw one of Dale's videos, or something like that, because it'll bring them on over here. And that's ultimately what I'm thinking about. So that outline makes a huge difference. I cannot pants to save my life. I pants for my first book, the one I just discussed before.
Yeah.
And it's a reason why it took a year, because I had no idea what I was doing. I'm just blah, 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 blah. But as soon as I put together an outline and I
That
structured
helped.
everything, I started really refining the process. So what I do is I take that outline and I take each one of those points and I bullet point each one of those points down and I put them in the form of a question. And
Oh,
that
I like
question is
that.
going to be something that the reader is going to have that I
Okay.
know that they're going to want addressed. And so
Ooh.
then I address that question through the form of a statement of here's how this is X, Y, and Z. So then it makes it super simple. My outlines can be anywhere from about 10 to 20 pages long for a
Wow.
manuscript that's usually about 20 to 40,000 words long. The reason why it's
Wow.
so long is I really break it
I
down
like that.
and I analyze each one of those points. And I also take any of the resources that I have found over the years, like a link, and I'll put that link there. So that way it cues me up as I'm writing down, okay, Dale, go over, check out that link, boom, 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 read the article. Okay, this is where I want to cite this source, blah, 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 yakety schmackety, and then I'm set and good to go. The
I
main
love
thing
that.
when I'm writing a book is I take that outline and I write until I'm done. I take my editor hat and I take it off. In fact, your monkey mind's going to try to get in control.
Yeah, yeah,
Tell them take a back seat, because right now is the time for you to bloviate. Now is
yeah.
the time
Okay.
for you to make the mistakes. It doesn't need to look pretty. All you got to do is get that first draft done. And that's usually
Yeah.
my biggest thing. So a lot of people want to know, how am I able to do the manuscripts so quickly? It's because I'm okay with it being
Being
dumb,
messy. Yeah.
being messy, being
Yes.
stupid, being riddled with
Yeah.
mistakes, because
And it's
I
fine.
yeah, I'll clean it up in the editing process,
Yeah.
because
Nobody's
when
gonna
you
read it.
hire a good editor, an editor will go ahead and be able to pull even better stuff out of you. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
the biggest thing I try to think about when I do that first draft is it's like a big lump of clay.
Yeah.
I'm going to just get a rough design of what that book's going to look like through the clay, but there's not going to be any of the finer elements that you're going to get through developmental editing and copy editing and proofreading.
Mm. So how do you figure out then? I love how you're kind of sharing structure. How do you figure out what goes in each chapter and like kind of split it up? Or do you kind of do that after? Is that more of an editing thing? Like you said, you just kind of just wing it at first.
I think for the most part, I wing it because I take that brain dump and I organize it the best way I see fit. But every
I like
now and
that.
then the editor will come in and go, you've already said this in this
Yeah, yeah.
previous chapter, or this doesn't seem like it should belong in this chapter. It should go in this one. And in some instances where they've wiped out an entire chapter, like this has nothing to do with this book, you shouldn't include it. And
Okay,
so,
interesting.
yeah, and that's the thing is I'm fairly agreeable and flexible with my editors. I never ever once ever think my editor's attacking me,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
for
I
sure.
would much rather my editor be the
Point
most
something out.
harshest critic that could probably come to me, because I'd rather them be harsh and me correct those things than for it to go to market and then
Yeah.
have the reviewers absolutely just bomb me like crazy. I've had a couple of books
Yes.
where I phoned it in, and you will see that in the reviews, because the
Okay.
reviews will say like X, Y, and Z. There's something wrong with this, this, and this. And I'm like, ooh, they bring up a good point.
Oh, yeah, we all have that with every book. It's like, oh, okay, I can do that better in the next book. So that's totally normal. But I
Yep.
love that you brought up other readers, because my next question was about beta readers, and somebody wanted to know how you find beta readers for nonfiction and how you select them. And like, I know how to do it for fiction, but not really for nonfiction. So I'm curious if there's a difference for you.
I wish I could tell you that there was a specific system that I do, but I think I'm super fortunate that since having my channel, all I have to do is just put out an APB and I literally
Yes.
get dozens of applications for beta readers. It's
Love
crazy,
that.
which I'm going to say this right now. This, I don't know what I was thinking. It was the first book out of these 6 books that I'm working on. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take 6 people, which by the way, that's too many beta readers. 1 to 3 is perfect amount. 6
Okay.
is a lot.
Yeah.
Crazy person here. I allowed a dozen people to come through. 12 beta readers. Can
I've done that. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of
It's
feedback.
way too much. I think I'd
Yeah.
seen Wesley Dean Smith. Am I? Yes, right? Wesley. Ah, man. His name's slipping my mind. I met it, or I found out about him through Michael Iran, and he's fairly prolific. And he doesn't believe in beta readers. He believes in just getting
Really?
one reader
Okay.
one target reader and having them read it. And he's like, and
Okay.
they'll be able to identify those problems.
Hmm.
And I'll have to
Okay.
agree with him, because this last year, I devoted the entire year of 2022 to fiction writing and understanding fiction writing, because I'm not a very strong fiction writer. Nonfiction, we can agree, I've got a pretty good tenuous
Yes.
grasp on it.
You do.
Now,
You
as
got it
far as
figured out.
fiction goes, it's a little tougher for me. So I needed to have beta readers. So how I did that was, again, I was able to reach into my community. Now, for your listeners or your viewers that want to know about, okay, that's all well and good, Dale's saying I need to go start a YouTube channel. No. Let's go ahead and back it up just a little bit here. You can start a YouTube channel if you want to, but that's kind of a long way to go about thing. When I was doing fitness, it was just a simple thing of reaching out to my current email subscriber base.
Yes. Yeah.
Email is absolutely critical for so many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is going to be getting beta readers, and the other one getting ARC readers.
Yes.
Because you can be able to dip into that list because they're already invested in you. And don't make this complex here, folks. If you want to start an email newsletter, it's very simple. Just go find a free service. MailChimp, MailerLite, ConvertKit, I think, has a free offer. You can do any one of those things. Doesn't need to be sexy. Everybody's like, oh, you got to get a reader magnet, a lead magnet, and then you're going to get a tripwire, and then you no. Forget all that.
It's complicated.
Just make it super simple. Someone's reading your book, say, hey, would you like to get any kind of notifications about discounts or advanced reader copies and things like that? Join my email newsletter. Don't call it an email list. Nobody ever wants to be on a list. The last time I was on my on a list, it was on my mom's, and it wasn't a good list.
I love it.
It wasn't a good list.
I love that.
But, getting the beta readers was just as simple as reaching out to that following. I would say probably, if you're brand new to the business, rely on your peers within your network. If you don't have any peers in the network, get out from behind your keyboard, meet other authors.
Yes.
Especially if you could find other authors in your niche.
Yeah.
Find 1 to 3 really good ones. So what I did for my fiction series last year was I found 3 authors that were within the science fiction and horror niche. And that was the realm that I actually published in.
Gotcha.
So I wanted to get people that actually have been in the trenches. They know exactly how it goes. And since I didn't have a following to tap into, I just tapped into those authors. And it was so cool to get other authors' insights, because they were giving me additional insights and ideas that actually made my stories even better. And it was funny because the longer I work with them, the more I could kind of predict, what are they going to think about this? What will they say?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be super complex how you get your beta reader. I wouldn't recommend, say, getting somebody who's going to be biased. I don't want to go get my mom. Love you, mom, but you're not going to ever
probably
be a
not that helpful for me.
Right. It's going to be too biased, but I want to find other authors that know I'm going into their niche, so they're not going to want me to look like a complete and total scab within their niche. So they're going to help me do better. They're going to make it to where my work is going to be so much polished. I can't express enough. More authors need to get beta readers.
Yes.
At least 1 to 3.
Yes.
Just that's it. You don't need, and you can hang on to those people too. I even threatened to pay them. I was like, I'll pay you if you continue. They're like, no, you don't need to pay me. We're fine. We don't need to be paid.
Yeah. But like you said, it's that outside perspective that you kind of said this earlier, where it's like, if you get that, you won't get it in reviews later. And that's huge. And it's so valuable.
Yeah, it is. And I think Michael Laron, do you know Michael, by the way?
I don't think so.
I need to introduce you to him. Michael's just a fantastic guy. But Michael actually shared how he doesn't hire a developmental editor.
Oh,
and that
I don't either. Because betas, you
just
don't need
gets it sorted out in beta, because they're going to know exactly what's not right. What isn't quite lining up within your book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, because beta readers are going to work for either one of those, because they're your audience. They're going to be the ones that are going to be able to tell you, hey, your baby's ugly and it's also a little bit lopsided.
I love that. Yes, beta readers are the key to readers actually getting a lot out of your book. I love that. And I jumped ahead to beta readers because it was like a perfect fit. But now let's jump back to the beginning, because also I was wondering, how do you decide if a topic would even be good to write, if it's even good enough of an idea? Like, how do you come up with ideas for nonfiction and test if they do well? I know it's a tough one.
Polling the audience I already kind of discussed, but one of the things I like to do is I go to the most popular marketplace on online. It's Amazon.
Mm.
I bust that thing open in incognito mode, and I jump into the Kindle store and I jump into the bookstore, and I
Ooh, I
just
like
pull
that.
up keywords. And what I'll do is I go in and I'll type up just a single term from a keyword phrase,
Mm.
and I allow autosuggest to populate. And then I jot down each of those, or in some instances, I just do a screenshot and then jot it all down. I jot down those keywords that I see popping up. And then what I'll do is I'll search each of those keywords that have my interest, that I say, ooh, I can do something about that. And then I look at the number of products and I look at the number of books. I focus on the number of the actual books itself and how are they performing. Because if they're not performing very well, meaning like
Mm.
there's an Amazon bestseller rank of 1 million or greater,
Yeah.
chances are very likely I'm going to be selling like one copy a month. But if I'm
Gotcha.
seeing something that, say, for instance, there's 100,000 in the ABSR or less, closer to number one, then I know there's proof of concept. Then I know there are people looking for this particular topic. The other thing to do is just look at other authors in the niche. How are they
I love
doing?
that.
What are they doing? Is that book being well received? Read the reviews. I love to jump to 1 and 2 star reviews. And I said that with a slight eye roll, but I mean it seriously. I go in there
Yeah.
because I pay attention.
Really?
What are these books doing wrong that I can do
Okay.
right?
Ooh,
So
interesting. Never would have thought of that.
yeah, I just look at those critical reviews, because everybody can say 4 and 5
Yeah.
star reviews. We get those all the time as self-published
Yeah.
authors. You know, it's great. I want to hear the more critical end of things. I appreciate the 1 and 2 star reviews, especially the ones with substance, not just a 1-star rating, because I don't have
Right.
any context, but
Right.
somebody that actually takes the time to do a 5-page dissertation about this specific book and why it's 2 stars. I'm
Yeah.
reading it because I'm like, okay, this person's really
Oh,
passionate
man.
about it. And chances are very likely they're going to probably represent a small subset of people that, if they're pleased in the way that they're looking for, that's going to move them more towards the 4 and 5 star range.
I love that.
So
That's
reviews
genius.
are really, really good. Yeah.
I never would have thought of that. That's wild.
I wish I could say I came up with the idea, but these are things that I've learned from studying other YouTubers. Like you, for instance, I pay attention to your channel. Another friend of yours, Mandy Lynn, that's another one. Michael Aran of Author Level Up, love his channel. The Alliance of Independent Authors, Dave Chesson, the Kindlepreneur.
Yeah.
I just love and I wish I could take credit for this particular one. I don't know who I can get credit for it, but I do know it's not my idea.
I'm so there with you. Like, all the things that I've learned, we just picked it up along the way. And speaking of which, we've talked a lot about like the writing side, but do you have any tips that you've picked up along the way for publishing or marketing nonfiction, either or? Because that's 2 big topics that I didn't think to cover.
Well, when it comes to publishing, when it comes to nonfiction books, I'm going to really, really recommend that you publish wide. There are a lot of nonfiction authors that shackle themselves to Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the vast majority of Kindle Unlimited consumers are focused on fiction. And
really? Okay.
yeah, it is good to start with Kindle Unlimited and maybe do 90 days and see if it goes well for you. And if it does go well, great. But I would really recommend that you cast a wider net with nonfiction. And the most important thing, I'm sorry, I got to say this, I'm a library nerd. I love libraries. I've loved libraries since I was a kid.
Yes.
So having my book in libraries has been like a dream fulfilled for me.
That's awesome.
So I think that getting your book into libraries make a huge difference. You know, you can go to platforms like Drafted Digital that will send it over to places like Overdrive, Hoopla. There was another one, Palace Marketplace, I think, is another one that's just new. There's a number of them. Or you can go over to places like Kobo Writing Life that goes directly to Overdrive, that goes over into the libraries. But think about going wide if you're a nonfiction author. If you're steadfast against it and you just really want to rely on Kindle Unlimited, don't think I'm going to think any less of you, because I still have some of my nonfiction books over in KU because I'm lazy. There are times,
hard.
honestly,
it's a lot of work to put them out there.
It is.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's the publishing end of things. When it comes to marketing nonfiction, gosh, so many ways you can do it.
I know. I'm curious if it's different from fiction, though, because like I bet arcs are still a big thing, right?
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. Okay.
Yeah, you definitely want to have arcs for your nonfiction books, because you want to have. For something like with marketing, you really want to think about this. When you publish your book, great. No amount of keywords. This is coming from the guy that put out a 5-time award-winning book called Amazon Keywords for Books. Shameless self-plug, sorry. No amount of keywords are going to sell books for you.
Oh, okay.
At the end of the day, keywords make your book discoverable. They do not sell more books. You're responsible for doing that. So there's no neon sign pointing down to your book to come and buy it. You need to be proactive. And there's 50 million ways you could do it. I could tell you a bunch of ways and it may not work out for you. That's the thing about book marketing. It's not one size fits all.
True.
Okay. Yeah. And I there's times where I've done some Fiverr experiments where I've hired Fiverr to do some book promotion, and it's worked really well for some of them, and it's not worked well for others. And I get some viewers that are like, "Oh, it didn't work. You're just trying to scam people." I'm like, maybe you missed that part where I say results may vary, because I might have been promoting, let's say, a book about self-publishing, or I was doing one about science fiction, and you just published one about, I don't know, where-bear shapeshifters, or, you know, underwater basket weaving for dolphins. You know, that's going to be different. It's not a one size fits all. But here's the thing. When it comes to book marketing, think about this. Everybody should know that this is what book marketing is all about. Being visible. Become visible. Think about how you can become visible. Is it social media? Is it YouTube? Is it podcasting? Is it going to be paid ads? Is it going to be doing author collaborations like newsletter swaps or group promos? There's so many ways that you can do this. One of the ways that you're going to be able to find out how to do it is study it, implement it, take notes, adjust. Literally, there's your formula.
Yes. And I like the being visible, because it's like being visible to your target audience too. And like knowing who they are, then you can get in front of their eyeballs and actually be visible. That's genius. I love it. So thank you so much for this. I feel like we could keep going, but I think we're running out of time. So I will wrap up with some fun outro questions. Ooh. What is something on your author bucket list that you just love to see happen that hasn't happened already? Because you've done a lot of cool things.
I honestly want to pivot away from nonfiction to fiction eventually.
That's awesome.
I want to be a full-time science fiction horror author. I really am very passionate about fiction. Life led me towards this direction. I'm super thankful for all that YouTube and nonfiction books have given me. But in the same instance, there's the kid inside me that is just yearning to come out. There's a good reason why I spent over a year working with a fiction coach and really trying to learn the ropes and such, because I am very passionate about fiction. And I imagine going into 2024, I'll be able to hopefully realize that dream of producing and publishing my first full-length novel for science fiction horror. And that's really my bucket list right now. If I can just cross that off the list, hopefully we'll look at it another year from now and say, nice.
Yes, I love bucket list things that are 100% within our control, that we can make them happen, and it's going to be awesome. So I'm excited for you, because that's a really cool thing too. It's going to be so fun. And then my other question is, if you could give an aspiring author one piece of advice, what would you say?
Oh, man.
And you asked me this question too, so I'm laughing because now I get to bring it back to you.
You know, it's so funny. I asked this question, and I've had over 100 guests on my podcast at one point, and that's not no exaggeration. Yes. And never have I asked it myself. But I would say one of the things is don't allow anybody to talk you out of your passion and what you love in writing and publishing. If you just enjoy to write and write for the sake of writing, for the craft, then you should do that. Don't allow somebody's paycheck flexing on a channel like, hey, here's my income. I made $20,000 and you pull in $20. Don't let that be the thing that determines your worth. Think about what you're doing this for. Why are you doing it? Are you passionate about it? Then let that happen. Don't let anybody talk. Even if you watch one of my videos and you feel discouraged after watching my videos, screw me. Screw it. Stop paying attention to me. If it discourages you, it's probably not something you should be paying attention to. You should be, as an author, realizing that someone, somewhere, a reader is needing your work right now. That's going to change their life in some capacity. Whether it's nonfiction, a fitness book, you help them lose 100 pounds, or it's fiction that it will relieve that burden of the stress of daily life. Suspend the disbelief and get captured in just this amazing tale that you have woven. So just remember that reader at the end of the day, because that reader is
Mhm.
going to make you feel like $1,000,000.
I love that. That's perfect. Very nice on the spot answer too, because you said you hadn't thought about it. That's really good. And so then, before I forget, the most important question: where can we find you online that I can link below?
You can find me at selfpublishingwithdale.com. Again, that's
Yeah,
selfpublishingwithdale.com. And it'll give you everything you need to know, from Discord to
love it.
YouTube to everything else in between.
Yes, and I will make sure to link your YouTube channel below too, because it's a really awesome resource that I'm sure everybody watching is going to love. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.